Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 320 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, we're going to be jumping into example brand values and how to implement them in your messaging when you are creating content and putting things on social media. Now, before we jump into that, I want to remind you that this is another even episode 320. So I want you to go back to the past even episodes, 318, 316, 314, 312. This is all part of a series. And there is a workbook with each of these episodes that are even numbered that you can actually go through and do the exercises that I'm asking you to do. So if you haven't and you're just jumping into the series, after this, head back, but make sure you grab that workbook. It's Jenny Melrose /book, and you can grab the free workbook there, as well as my actual book that really goes deeper into all of the concepts that we're covering in this series. So let's really jump into this when it comes to your example of brand values. So we've talked about everything that has happened to you up until this point in your life has actually made you who you are. That means that the good and the bad have formed your opinions, and you continue to make decisions today based on those past experiences. Now, some of you are probably parents, and some of you have probably dealt with bullying, whether it's with your own kids, whether it was yourself growing up. I recently dealt with some bullying issues with my oldest, who is a 7th grader. Last year, she was a 6th grader, and we dealt with some crazy bullying things that happened on social media. And it really opened my eyes to what we can think about and how we can apply what we learned from that. So when I was actually a 4th grader, I was continuously picked on by a couple of boys in my grade. I was an easy target with pink, thick-rimmed glasses and braces. It continued until about 9th grade. While the rest of the girls in my grade developed, I stayed stick skinny, or as flat as a board, as the boys like to say. In 9th grade, it stopped, though. I know you're probably thinking I finally developed. And if you've met me in person, you know that that's not true. That's when the boys finally realized that I didn't care. I was too involved with playing field hockey, basketball, and soccer. I made all the varsity teams as a freshman, even starting over some of the seniors. Instead of being incessantly teased by the boys in my grade, now I was threatened in the halls by seniors on my team because I was taking their playing time. That stopped soon too, though, because they actually got to know me and realized I didn't do anything on purpose. I just loved to play and compete. Some of you are probably thinking that my bullying was mild compared to what you endured or witnessed others go through. I am so sorry for the pain that you endured. Stick with me here and don't throw this book across the room. That pain actually needed to happen to make who you are. You are stronger because of it, and it's more likely that you are an advocate for young girls enduring bullying. You believe in taking a strong stance against it because of what you endured. Now, here's how this relates to authenticity. I want you to talk about it if it is in line with your brand, your beliefs, whether they are on bullying or eating vegan for the sake of animals or are part of your brand. People are going to relate to those stories and beliefs. They're going to feel connected to you. They will make you human to your audience. If you only choose to show the perfect, you're not giving your audience a chance to truly know you. Probably about, I want to say, it was 3 years ago, because I was just after my best friend's 40th birthday. We had a horrific event happen with our dog, Charlie. He ate over 80 Advil while we were actually out for celebrating her 40th birthday. At that time, I questioned whether I should share it on social media. I thought, was it in line with my brand? Would my audience think I was irresponsible? It definitely was on brand for me because part of my morning routine is always something with Charlie. And I was missing him terribly during that time because he did have to spend a handful of days in the emergency vet. My audience knew this and responded and rallied around me. So many members of my audience sent me messages and shared stories on how they too went through a similar situation. Being authentic created that connection with my audience. Now, before you go jumping on Instagram stories and telling everyone your deepest, darkest secrets, think about how you can share your belief and connect it to your brand. I don't talk about my bullying because I know it was mild compared to others, and it has nothing to do with me helping female entrepreneurs grow their business. But if at some point in the future, I pray that this never happens, but if my daughters were to endure cyberbullying, it's likely that I would talk about it because you as my audience need to help protect our female entrepreneurs of tomorrow from the very technology that many of us use to grow our outreach and businesses. I will absolutely not get on the second it happens. I will get on with a very clear messaging about what you can do to help. There will be a lesson learned from it. I've watched grown women get on Instagram stories and make a mockery of their own children or their husband. Recently, a local teacher went on Instagram stories to share how she was frustrated with teaching. The problem is that she did it with the child she was frustrated with in the background. She belittled the child and then publicly shared it. We can share our stories for others to relate to it, but please think before you do it. Don't ever share something when you're raw with emotion, thinking about how it can be a lesson for your audience rather than a life-altering 15 seconds that could change the course of your life like it did for that teacher who actually ended up getting fired. Let me give you an example of how that teacher actually could have handled it so you better understand what I mean. Let's believe that the teacher also has a website where she sells her lessons plans. So she has an audience of teachers that most likely are also frustrated from time to time with the behavior of their students. Or even better yet, are frustrated with administration because they feel like their hands are tied when it comes to helping their students because of their lack of resources. Yep, we're going to go with the second one because clearly that was me. In the video, the young teacher was in her classroom, her school ID on, and the child was in the background. First thing, we're going to make sure that there are no children that are not ours ever in a video we post. Second, we're going to make sure that we're not showing anything that shows what district we work for or where we live. Third, we're going to make sure that it's not during school hours because, well, you're supposed to be working. Okay, now instead of whining about how a child misbehaved and ruined our day, we're going to share what happened, but then explain why we believe it happened and how we can relate it to a product that we offer. Or you could even share what happened and ask your audience if they've ever dealt with it and how they actually overcame it. Get advice from them, even if you think you can come up with your own solution. In order to be authentic, we need to share more than just surface level information with people. If we share what we believe in, we give people a look into who we truly are. We're providing them with an opportunity to connect with us because it is likely that they are a similar belief or know someone that does. After the incident with the local teacher, my husband and I were talking about it at dinner one night. He also is a teacher and was flabbergasted at her life-altering decision. What we couldn't get past is how she didn't realize that what she was doing was wrong, and she absolutely would get called out for doing it, or in this case, fired. Social media is a dangerous tool if not used properly, so think before you use it. If you're sharing something that you wouldn't want your mom or grandmother to see, then for heaven's sakes, please don't share it. And we need to teach our kids this. Our kids need to understand that they can't say things that are inappropriate, even if they are lip syncing a word from a song that is being used over and over and over again, and it's trending on TikTok. You can't say certain words, and we should know that. And we have to teach our kids this. You have to be very clear that whatever they put out on social media can come back. I don't care if they do it on Snapchat. Those snaps can easily get saved by someone else and then be altered or used against them. So please make sure that if you are sharing things or your kids are sharing things, that you are very specific about making sure that it is part of your brand for your business. And if it's your own kids, it's still part of their brand of who they are. Would they sing that song in front of their grandmother with that type of language or those words used? They have to start thinking this way because it is life-altering when it comes to social media. And it is something that kids can lose scholarships. There was a New York Yankee that lost his Yankee
pitching contract because of something that he put on social media 10 years prior. These things don't go away, and our kids need to understand that. And we also always want to bring it back to that whole idea of our brand values. Even as kids, they should have their own values, and that is part of who they are as a brand. If you have kids that are potentially going to be college athletes, they are a brand, and you have to be thinking about that, and they need to be represented that way, not only for college, but also for athletics, but also for colleges. If we think that their colleges are not checking kids' social media profiles now, we are delusional. Parents are checking kids' social media profiles before they even let them hang out with other kids. We need to be making sure our kids understand that social media is a way in which they can express who they are, and they want to keep it at a level that if a college applicant or a college administrator was looking at, that it's not going to potentially not allow them into that college because of something they posted. So I know that this kind of, again, you guys can always see I have a tendency to kind of try to apply it not only to your business, but also to a lot of your lives. And many of you I know that are listening have children of your own, and you're trying to navigate social media. And it's hard to navigate, especially as they get older and they see you on it, how you can actually tell them to stay off of it when all they see is you on it all day long. And I am here to tell you that you absolutely can. You may be hated. As my now teenage daughter often will say, she hates me sometimes because she's not allowed to have social media. She's not allowed on it. I am not going to allow a 13-year-old to make decisions about what she posts that can affect her future when her brain is not fully formed. Now, that is up to you to be able to decide for yourself what you want to do. But going back to this whole idea of this episode, brand values, that is what they should be sharing and showing, because they themselves need to look at themselves as that brand. All right, you guys, I know that this was a lot of information. I want to make sure that if you haven't already, go and do that exercise. I really walk you through when it comes to your brand values. There is a worksheet in the workbook that talks about really your beliefs and how you can break it down and what is appropriate and where there is a gray line for you and where you're not going to step into something and talk about something. You will never hear me talk about politics. I will stay as far away from it as possible when it comes to all my beliefs as far as that, because it is a very wavering line in my family, both one and the other side as well. So it's not something that I talk about. But it can be if it's something that you're comfortable talking about, but you have to decide where those lines are in the sand for you. If you haven't already left me a rating and review, I would so appreciate it if you took the time to do so. As always, I appreciate you guys for doing so. All right, until next time, I will see you all then.